page for information on the Kemetic New Year celebration. Are there any other announcements? Anything else coming on in the community that we all need to know about or should know about?
This is Baba Tony. I just got on.
Yes.
We mentioned the African American male wellness walk.
So thank you for mentioning that. Can you tell us about it?
Oh yeah, it's going to be done, but it's going to be virtual as well as live in different spots, and different communities are going to do their walk, and that'll be on August. If I got to get this straight, because I think I got these dates all going on in my head. I think it's August 1st. Oh, wait a minute, no, August what? August 8th. August 8th, they start at 10 o'clock. And then there's the tribute to Brother Walt Neal, and that one is August 1st. And that'll be held around the country and maybe the world on virtual and in different spots. Well, two or three of the spots are here in Columbus. One is at the what's the thing on Mount Vernon? The box on Mount Vernon. Of course, at Elder Ised's place, and a couple of other places that they would be, broadcasting from. Just stay tuned for that. Okay. And of course, I know y'all mentioned the Kemetic stuff, right?
We talked about the new year, and yes, we did mention that.
Okay, and Imani is doing the a drum call, drum circle, drum talk of the ancestor celebration at the Hanford Village Park on the 8th. So there's a thing going out on that too. Thank you for your patience. I yield.
Thank you.
Today is a event in the community. Our bar is a Black-owned community spot, and there are young people that I came up with who own that entity, and they are hosting a food truck festival. Of course, everyone needs to wear their mask and socially distance when they go, but I'm pretty sure the hours of that today are like 12:30 to 7:30, and there's going to be music and different food trucks and stuff, so that way if people want to go outside and have some nice community fun, that's something that they can go to and support.
Where's the R Bar located?
Oh, that's a good question.
You say where?
I can look that up. Let me look that up for you, please.
Okay.
The festival is at 1600 Allen Creek Drive.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people get excited about Shrimp Lips and Queen's Table. There's a whole lot of places there and a lot of supporters.
What day is this?
It's today from 12 to 7.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to place 1600 Allen Creek. Is that down near Phoebus?
I'm not sure. I'm the queen for just putting it in my GPS and going.
Okay. Thank you for that, Tiandra. Are there any other announcements?
Yes. Did you ask? Did you about Orpheonki's daughter event?
No, I didn't. I did not, because I don't have it too good in my. Oh, let me pull that up. Let me go there.
Oh, this is deep. I'm watching John Lewis, horse-drawn. Oh man, this is deep. The Southern folks know how to do it.
Yeah.
They're taking him back across the Pettis Bridge, the Edmund Pettis Bridge that he almost got killed on.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. I've been spent some good time in Selma a couple times, and been across that bridge. There's a lot of, you could feel all the energy there.
Yeah. I'm talking about the horse-drawn buggy with
Mhm.
him in it. And these brothers have got this thing so much under control. The horses, the brothers, and the community are in one accord on this.
Mm.
I mean,
That's good.
I mean, we're talking about unity. This is a picture. And
Yes,
of course,
that's beautiful.
the stars and stripes there are, the white represents upper and the red represents lower Kemet. The stars represent night and the blue represents day. So that's our thing going on there. That's where I'm looking at it now. And you see the white is first, then the red, white, then red. So that's where it's upper and lower. And the upper and lower land comes together under that pharaoh. So that's where I'm at with this. And they all dressed in black. I mean, it's like
And got the mask.
yeah. Oh man, they clean. Yeah,
And they got their mask on.
Oh yeah, they got black masks on. They clean. They getting ready to go across the bridge now. Okay, I did digress. Sorry, y'all. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, Barbara Tony was giving us an example of historical or cultural historical narrative matter.
That's right. And they own it.
That's exactly it, Brother Kwame. That's exactly it.
That's it. They own it.
I was locked in with
on it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you had just asked about today. Dr. Yolanda Stewart and a organization that pulls together students who've gone to HBCUs. They're having their final celebration. They've been working with these young people for 8 weeks. And they're having, what do they call it? It's their Leadership Academy. They've been doing that for the past 8 weeks, and today is their culminating event. And they usually give them a small stipend at the end for books and gap kinds of things that they may need. And if you want to contribute to that, they have a Cash App called MAD 346. But that's what's going on today. They also have Dr. Stewart's third child graduation celebration is today, and he's going to Howard. Her two older girls, her child number 1 and 2 are students at Howard. This will be child number 3 who will be a student at Howard. So that's also happening with them today. And
beautiful.
Yes, it's a great, they're a great family, you know, children, the mom, the dad, I think she has 5 children, so probably 2 more at home, 3 in college. It's a great example of what we can do and of Black families. Any other announcements that we may have?
Anyone that's interested in having an Afrocentric wedding or recommitting to the vows ceremony, I'm available.
Thank you, Elder Darrell. Okay. If we have no other announcements, we'll turn it over to Warrior Tiandra. Where we usually run is those people who participated in the Parak have the opportunity just to kind of review or summarize what they did. Then we're open for divine conversation where we are loving and respectful for each other, and we talk about what was presented during Parak. So Ms. Warrior Tiandra, you got it.
Thank you, Elder Alona. I'm grateful to continue the conversation today. I'm so excited to hear everybody be a part of it. What we discussed a couple weeks ago with culturally appropriate narrative mapping is the power, right, in the place that we have in making sure what we say, what is said about us, to us, our loved ones, our community, is something that we can control the narrative of. And it is an opportunity for us, but it's a requirement to know that when things are said to us, about us, and when we speak out of our mouth, that we're actually choosing the perspective in which we see things in a way, and what the effects are on us. We talked about the concept of code switching and how that was introduced to us. I want to say that probably became a term in the professional world maybe at least 20 years ago. And it was always something that had occurred, but I don't know if oppression named it or what. But it's the concept that when we walk into a professional setting or a workplace or a setting in capitalistic, white supremacist driven environments, that we code switch, or we change the way that we move, or our dialect, our posture, as opposed to when we come home from those settings, or when we gather around one another like we are today. It's the notion that we choose to speak more intelligently when we're around other cultures different from our own. And in looking at culturally appropriate narrative mapping, we're taking that power back, and we are applying one of our principles, which is Kujitakulia, in defining ourselves for ourselves, and saying that defining code switching, for me, I don't necessarily choose to use that word. I rather choose to very confidently and gratefully say that I am, and we are, multilingual and strategic and capable and intentional of choosing which tongue, which dialect, the energy behind what we're presenting based on what our goal is and who our audience is. And so that does not mean that I choose to speak, quote unquote, more proper or intelligent or professional when I am in a white, predominantly white area or culture or environment. Rather, I choose one of the many tongues that I speak to articulate, again, what my goal is to my audience, so that way it can be received. And so that's just one example. Another beautiful example was Elder Tony defining what he saw in the beautiful scene that he described with ancestor John Lewis, and noticing how majestic that scene is, and seeing the American flag, which some of us can see prior to knowing our power, and be discouraged by. The fact that America would even attempt to claim John Lewis in a white supremacist tongue, if we just think about what the flag tends to represent. But Baba Tony encouraged us and reminded us just exactly what those colors represent. And that is something that feels so positively overwhelming, to know that even in what they attempt to make for our bad, I guess, for a word, is actually meant for our good. And it's a reminder for us to know who we are in every moment, not just in the moments when we get to gather with one another on Sundays for Perronk or Divine Conversations, but even when we're out there and we might be in certain environments alone, there's always something to encourage us, to remind us who we are. And so the other example that was presented on this call thus far this morning is our conversation about our fellow inhabitants of this earth. And we talked about insects. And, you know, it was brought up that there are killer hornets. And there was some pushback because that was presented on the news. And it's like, well, why do we call them killer? Right? And we had that eloquent conversation. And then we talked about locusts. And I actually brought up the fact that that was one of the plagues. And then it was like, well, Brother Coleman said, would you want to be referred to as a plague? And it just reminds us, there's an African proverb, and I know that someone will be able to help me articulate it, but it's pretty much saying that the quote unquote victor of the time is the one who writes the textbook, right? Or the history book. And I think that that happens a lot of times in this literature, but us being so strong in who we are and supported by our ancestors and our higher power, we know that there's a greater story to be told. And it's right there in plain sight. And in my understanding, the plagues were sent really to liberate a people. And they were called plagues by the oppressor or the colonizer of the time. And they made it a negative light. But what, again, was meant for bad really was for our good. So I just use those examples to paint the picture of what culturally appropriate narrative mapping is. And I yield and open up the conversation. There's way more examples that I could provide, but some of them would just be reiterating what was spoken a couple weeks ago. What I'm excited to hear is different examples that are brewing within each one of you. So when I presented, Baba Tony and Brother Hatem also shared with me and with us their perspective of it. So I don't know if they want to open up with some words to reiterate what we talked about a couple weeks ago, or if this is just an open time now for discussion.
Elder Tony, do you have something you'd like to add to what Warrior Tiandra just said about what you talked about the last at Perunk? Or Brother Hatem, Nation Builder Hatem, do you have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, you know, I'm very shy and don't have a lot of words often. Don't speak that much. Yeah, y'all give me IC. I ain't hear no ICs on that. That's cool though. But hey, one of the key pieces I was thinking about when Tiandra was talking was the whole concept of mapping. And mapping is not necessarily you trying to figure out where you're trying to go, but is developing a concept or idea of where you are. And I think as Black people, we have to understand the map that we are existing in. So when we talk about code switching, we got to be very clear on what code we're switching to, because it's less of an idea of white supremacy and more idea of white domination. So in order, a lot of the training that many of us received was training to teach us how to deal and to operate in a situation that is dominated by white people. We have to make sure that we're able to fit so that we can make sure that we help them feel, or West Asians feel comfortable around us. And what we're moving into now is where we are able or becoming more confident in being able to express who we truly are. And I think that's a very beautiful piece. Many of us have existed in this space for a very long time, but it is good that as a group, as a larger group, we're moving into this place of power, because we're looking at the map and we're understanding, we're getting a better understanding of where we are and how we can deal, not how we have to deal, but how we can deal. Because for a long time we had to do the quote unquote code switching in order to be able to be prosperous in this society. But more and more of us are freeing ourselves up because we we are looking at the map for what it is. You know, not necessarily directions, but looking at the lay of the land. But
can I comment?
I'll stop right there. Go ahead.
Good day, everyone. This is Brother Shaka. One thing that
Greetings, Brother Shaka.
Hello, how are you? The one thing that I want to speak on in terms of code switching, and really to kind of open that up just a little bit, because what man puts on what is natural kind of makes us feel like we have to change a natural behavior to become more normalized, and calling the thing code switching is actually part of that process. Let me say that in the early 1900s, when people were coming over from different countries and they did not speak the language of the land, their kids went to school, and the kids learned the language and brought it back home and taught the parents. The parents who would be at the workplace maybe, or be at the homestead. The whole piece is that the youth were in charge of being able to interface their households with the community around them through the language that they shared with their parents. Now, the piece is that you look at my household, my son and I, we have a very clear Creole, if you will. It's an intentional mix between different languages and our regular daily activity. So the piece is that as we grow with this house Creole, I'm understanding it becomes a thing of optimizing the messages in monosyllabics, so we understand, you know, the whole story with just one or two. We understand it. All right, we understand where we're at, and that is what happens in every tribe. So when we talk about code switching and the cultural aspect, we're talking about even today, where someone who may be, let's say, Puerto Rican, go home and speak to his parents in their native tongue, because that's what they speak primarily in their households, and their parents might not speak good English, right? And they'll come out into the community and on the streets. It's the same thing, from what I understand, in African culture, and is why and on the continent, when we speak those different languages in different settings, what's the difference between that and this is that we don't speak, you know, in the tradition of America, we only speak one language, American, and that's not even, you know what I'm saying? So it's like when we break down the certain levels of the American experience and call it code switching, whether it has a negative connotation to it or not, it's a part of what allows us to become, like you said, multilingual. Because even I remember when I was a foster parent at 24 years old, I was a foster parent. I was an artist in the youth arts program right there in Columbus, and active in this conversation with the rights. So the piece is that in every one of those conversations, it's a different language being spoken. And in the social service lingo, when we're calling kids or children YPs, that's a code switching thing for that particular industry. You know what I mean? Young people and blase skip. And you have to, in being effective and engaging with the young people and engaging with the funders and you have to be multilingual, and you have to be able to step in the setting with the kids and tell them to, you know, shut up. and in a situation where you wouldn't necessarily show that face at a board meeting. So I guess the takeaway is that it's more natural than unnatural. But when we put that label on it in the context of that label, it just becomes a thing of the mechanics of where we are.
Yeah, Brother Shaka, I agree with you. It's definitely a strength. That's why it's something to be empowered by and not discouraged, to say, hey, you actually already have the ability to do this. Each one of us on the call, each one of us that are in our culture, because language and communication is a part of what we talked about a couple weeks ago, our epistemology. We care to connect with and relate to others. That's who we are as a people. It's innate within us. And so it's natural for us to be adaptable, and like knowing too that we're adapting and we're choosing to do it in certain situations, and still in the same sense not losing who we are, I think is important. But being able to go into the boardroom like you were sharing, or in certain areas, and make it happen, because we are present enough to understand how certain, I think, systems and people operate. We're present enough, and we have the innate ability to feel energy as a part of just who we are. And it's all a part of that. And it's definitely something to be celebrated, you know, and to be, again, I think, encouraged, the fact that we can choose to do that, and that we're not simply doing that based on someone else necessarily being in power, if I articulate it that well.
Permission to speak.
Yay, Bo.
Okay. I think code switching has always been around. If you think about slavery time, the slaves knew exactly how they were to respond to the masters. And when they got among their own folks, they would change up. So it's always been in us that you got to do like the master tell you to. And I can relate that to my job. I can remember going to whoever the richest person was in Toledo. We always had these elaborate meetings with the wealthy people who were on the board of the Ohio Arts Council. And I can remember having this discussion with this lady. I don't know how we got on it, but I ended up telling her that somehow I can't always be myself at these settings. And she said, "What do you mean?" And I explained to her that if I came in here and was just me, you would be appalled because I'm not speaking correct English and blah, 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 blah. And she listened to me, and in the end she said, "That must be an awful way to live, that you can't be yourself." And so you learn, it's just like jobs, you know what the protocol is. You know, you can't go on there really being you unless you're in a very relaxed atmosphere. My time, I was with all these highfalutin people and who would judge you just, you know, you're already black, so you can't be speaking Ebonics and all that stuff. And then for other cultures, I mean, they had to do it. And I can remember being in Puerto Rico, and I went to this lady's house, the girl who was our translator. She took me to her sister's house, and her sister said in Spanish, "I can speak English, but I refuse to speak it, because if they keep forcing me to speak it, I am going to lose it." And so when you talk to other cultures, what their fear is that they get so engraved in trying to be like the Americans that they lose their own cultures. And when I was working with the African community, the elders told me that within 2 years, their kids had lost their culture because they wanted to be like Americans so bad till they dissed their whole culture and they just became Americans. They stopped speaking their language and blah, blah, blah. So it has its bad effects. And I guess for those, you know, when you were saying people that we can choose, sometimes it's not a good choice if people don't understand, you know, what can really happen. So like the Ethiopians and all, they pretty much lost their kids that are here now have lost their culture because they have bought into the American culture. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
No, that's actually absolutely beautiful. I'm glad that you shared. And I think that is the point with culturally appropriate narrative mapping, is knowing, I hear what you're saying. And I think I've worked in corporate America. Much of my career was in corporate America. And even before my professional life, I was a product of this country's education system, which is very oppressive, right? And I just released my first book that I wrote it took me a while. My biggest challenge was to allow my voice to shine through in the pages. I kept going back to technical writing, right? I kept going back to what was rewarded in their system, what always got the A. And it was so hard for me to say, no, Tiandra, that's not how you speak, and that's not who you're speaking to. And all I'm saying is you said something, you said that you do as the master tells you. And I just I push back because you said that's what we did as slaves. And I think that a lot of times the reason that we are where we are today, right? I think that it's more like a slow burn. A lot of times when we think about a fire analogy, and it's the slow burn that causes the massive forest fire that creeps on homes and residential and commercial buildings out of nowhere and takes over a whole shore in like California, as opposed to someone starting a quick flame. And I just see our people as slow burning. I have studied more so the Bible than the Quran or than the Mother Nature, and there's just so many things that come to life for me, and that's the fact, like in the Bible, how people lived so many years. And what I got spiritually a few weeks ago is that we are those people, because Harriet Tubman, John Lewis, Malcolm X, all those people, they didn't go as hard as they did while on this earth to just throw in the towel and say, you know what, y'all got it. When they transition, they are there, and they are so powerful that they are continually and exponentially living through each one of us. So we really are, in a way, at least we're 400 plus years old on earth because of the ancestors that are within us. I don't ever hear the colonizer talk about their ancestors as much. They're not as connected, and so therefore they don't enhance as exponentially as we do as a people. And I just know that my ancestors who were enslaved, that they weren't just doing what the master told them. They let the master think that, oh,
Right.
This is all you want to eat? Let me fix this for you, and it's different. And then it happens to have some poisonous in it or something. I just know, and that's how I operate in the corporate world. And I know, Elder Alona, that's had to be how you operate in a sense, to where it's like, oh, okay, I choose to be like this because then it gives me power in a different way, and then I can catch you off guard. Because some of us are created to be infiltrators in a sense, and knowing that about yourself rather than thinking that we're doing something because somebody else told us, I think is empowering, and it's something that we should start talking about more, especially earlier, so that our young people, especially, and even us, each one of us today, can know that when we're in different settings, we're not just listening to what y'all say or making you feel more comfortable. I'm choosing this because it's going to get me a different avenue for what I'm doing in my mission.
Okay.
This is Elder Alona. Just a couple of comments to the conversation I'd like to add. And Kwame, bear with me because I know you've heard this before. I read a story in Atlantic magazine several years ago, and I know, Kwame, I'm supposed to get you that article, about a little girl that was like in like a homeless child. Her family was homeless, did not have very much. She was a Black child, and this Black woman was working with them, like kind of like a tutor or whatever. And she read her the Charlotte's Web story in standard English, and the little girl listened. And the little girl really did not speak very much standard English, but she related the story with full understanding back to the lady in her Ebonics type of language. And the woman was just amazed that the girl could stand in English, understand it, but in her mind translate it into what she spoke. And she was saying that this is really a bilingual child. She's switching the languages, that kind of code switch thing, but she understands both languages, but she chooses to speak in her own language, which I was just like, oh my goodness, this is just wonderful. And then what Brother Shaka had said that goes on between he and his son, I want to throw a plug in for all of us learning a language we want, or an African language, or as Brother Shaka was saying, a Creole kind of language that we can speak among ourselves, that empowers our children if we could speak an African language. It just, it broadens your mind, it empowers you, it allows you to be out and amongst people and have a conversation that is truly yours from your culture. That's all I wanted to add. I yield.
I wanted to kind of throw a challenge out, because I am going to say that in many ways, West Asians celebrate their ancestors more than we do, and possibly may have a stronger connection.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. This brother Hatim, I'm saying it loud and I'm saying it proud, because I'm saying part of the reason that they are able to dominate everybody else is because I think they have a strong connection with their ancestors. I'm throwing it out there.
Brother Hatim, can you give us I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'll give you several examples.
Okay.
How many people went to college? How many people went to college?
I went to college.
I did.
Okay, cool. Name one of the halls where you went to class.
They weren't named after anyone black.
Huh?
The Frank Hale Center.
Okay, now you ain't go to class at Frank Hale. Stop trying to be smart. You ain't go to class at Frank Hale. And at Ohio State, Frank Hale is a very, very minority name of one of the buildings. You remember that one because it connects to you.
Ohio State.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Now, but the point I'm trying to make is, when you go down these streets, some of y'all live on white people's streets named after their ancestors. Some of y'all go to work in buildings that's named after their ancestors. Some of y'all even go to Washington, D.C., which is the ancestor worship capital of the world, and you able to walk around there where they got all this symbolic stuff about their ancestors. All of us talk about President's Day and all this other shit that these people have, and they are celebrating their ancestors. They're not doing it like us, but I'm saying they might have a stronger connection than we have, and we kind of discount some of their spiritual shit because we don't think that is as deep as ours. I think we be missing it sometimes. I'm sitting up here, they got a whole city set up to, as a matter of fact, one of the major issues that's going on right now is that they're going around tearing down Confederate statues.
Oh, they're taking them down.
They're taking them down now.
Ancestor worship icons.
Exactly. That ancestor, not only is it ancestor worship, but it's ancestor worship of ancestors that was losers. I don't understand that one, but the point that I'm saying is that they got all this stuff where they celebrate their ancestors, but yet we discount that because I can ask the question, where's our monuments at?
Where's our statues in our homes?
Valid.
So
Very valid, except for the fact that, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sister.
I was just saying very valid, except for the fact that we appreciate the land. So I don't think it's part of our, we're not we don't play with the same rules, or we don't need to adopt their ways. So even though we are very intentional about celebrating our ancestors, we know that we're very intentional about celebrating our environment, or one another, the ones that come behind us, in nature. And so in their way of building all these huge monuments that more so take away from the earth, I don't think that that's our way. It doesn't mean that our way is lesser. I definitely hear what you're saying. It's a valid point. But we don't desire, I don't think, we would never tear up the earth to create something like DC, to industrialize it the way that they have, to have all these huge concrete monuments.
I'll push back on that. I'll
Okay.
say,
I like that. I like that point.
Permission to speak.
Okay, go ahead. I'll be quiet.
Okay, I think that you have a great point. And I think one of our problems is, like the Asians, they stayed connected in Asia. Us Black Americans, African Americans, we were dispersed throughout the world. So we didn't have that whole sense of family that the Asians did. And even though here in the U.S. Snakes, we have pockets of people who are doing what we're doing. The problem is we are so disorganized. I think that's what Frederick Douglass said, that was that's our downfall. We have good information, but for some reason we cannot all come together and be on the same page. We can talk about Tawi right there. It is very difficult for us, for whatever the reason, to be unified and be on the same page and start moving forward. So it is us within ourselves that have that problem that only we can solve. We can't bring nobody in to solve it for us. Those of us who are on this call right now have to be on the same page at all times to move forward, and we have to be in agreement, and we don't always have that.
Now, I got two pushbacks now. Y'all starting trouble. I'm trying to be peaceful. I'm trying to move. Now, pushback number one. Where did they learn to erect monuments to their ancestors?
That's
what
right.
Ashe.
For all that.
Right.
Don't tell me they.
Everywhere we went, we set up monuments. One, to celebrate our connection with nature and celebrate our connection with our ancestors. You can look at Memphis. You can look at all of our great cities. You can look at all the past empires. You can even look at some of the, even in the small villages in some places. When I went to Ghana, they would have places where they had shrines. We always did that so that we could leave our mark and also, in a sense, mark our territory. Second, I don't think we all need to be on the same page. It would be nice if we was all in the same book. Hell, maybe if some of us is even in the same library, we might be able to do something. And I would challenge and say, I would say that I don't think any group is as organized as we really look at it. We're looking at it from the outside. We don't see what's going on inside. And one of the issues is our small pocket of people that we have, we could at least be in the same book and start building. We don't all have to be doing the same thing. We could, you know what I'm saying? As long as we all can agree on the goal and work towards that, I think that's unity. Because if you look at the human body, you got all types, you got trillions and trillions of cells, and each one of them have a job, and each group of cells has an agenda. But the end agenda of most of the cells in the body is to maintain that body so that they can live as long as possible. They all don't have to be doing the same thing. The heart cells don't do the same thing that the brain cells do. So I mean, it's just I think it's a matter of how we look at it. It's sort of like, once again, looking at the map, stepping back and understanding what a map is. A map don't tell you where to go or how to go. A map lays out the land and understanding the land around you. You know where the rivers are. You know where the mountains are. You know the best paths, or you can at least see how to get to where you want to go. And I don't think we really took time to look at our map and looked at the other maps that are impacting ours. I'll stop.
Ashe.
This is
It's
Elder
also
Lona.
possible.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
Now, coming from a math perspective, it's possible to have the map and not know the topography. So you can have an idea of where the lakes, rivers, and this, that, and the other is. But if you don't know the shape of, the land, you won't recognize it even when you're standing in the midst of it. And that came out of Kemet, topography, the first examples.
Ashe.
Just,
Ashe, I think Elder Alona, you were gonna go. I'll call next.
okay, just a quick comment. Nation Builder Hatem, you asked about buildings. I went to college. I went to an HBCU, Southern University, and our buildings were named after Black people. The one that I spent most of my time in, because I was a computer science major, was T.T. Alain Allen Hall. And he was an ex-person that was in bondage that rose into Louisiana's legislature. So it depends on where you go to school. That's one thing. The other thing, my other comment has to do with the West Europeans, as you say, do their celebrations and look at their ancestors. That's theirs. That's fine. That is how they do it. That is what they do. That's how they do reverence. We need to look at ours. Ours does not necessarily have to follow theirs. How do we do it? And we are an African people that has a unique cultural heritage in the United States or in the Americas or in the diaspora. We need to look at what are the cultural things we have inked out in spite of our bondage that have allowed us to celebrate our ancestors. And I think we do. I think we celebrate our ancestors royally. We don't do it as they do, and it's not one is better than the other. It's just that's what they do. We just need to continue to lift up what we do. We have a culture that is special, which is different from theirs. So that's my only comment. My little ire is always raised when we diminish ourselves. I yield.
I don't think if it sounded as if I was diminishing us, that was not my intention. But what I'm say is I'm going back to the root. Where did they learn it from? See, because a lot of the stuff that they do, you got to ask the question, where did they get it from? If we were the mothers and fathers of all civilization, and as we claim, where are they getting these practices from? You know what I'm saying? Now, that is ours. The essence of that is ours. Now, what I'm asking is, as far as stepping back and looking at the map and looking at how we're dealing, are we really empowering our ancestors to be involved in our existence? Is the question that I'm asking. I think that's a question that we might need to focus on, because that's part of the cultural map that we on. Are we really empowering our ancestors to assist us in a way that they really are capable of assisting us?
I think we are. I think I have a few comments to make about things that have been said. And one of the first things that just came to mind, Brother Hatem, in your question, in continuation to what Elder Alona said, is I think that since we are such a spiritual people, I think this kind of hits two things. So in the story, Sister Alona, Elder Alona, that you shared about the young girl who heard Charlotte's Web and then was able to articulate it in her tongue that she chose, right? That's the difference between who we are as a people and how we're taught in their system and what their strengths are. Now, that typically isn't celebrated in the education system, although it should be, because that is enacting critical thinking and a strength in self and the ability to communicate. And what the education system and what their culture celebrates is being able to memorize and regurgitate information the same way in which it was shared. That's what a standardized test celebrates, is being able to simply memorize facts and memorize what you've been told, not to truly digest it and understand it for application. And to me, that's the reason why we're in trouble the way that we are in certain aspects within this country, with education being one of the leaders, is that our ability to understand and then articulate in the tongue that we choose in the moment is a strength, and it's one that's not being celebrated in the systems that we that are a part of the world that we live in. And I think that's the difference in how we respect and celebrate. We celebrate and honor our ancestors. I think they idolize, and there's a difference. There is a difference. To Brother Kwame's point about the map and topography, that's the difference between statistics and narrative. You have to use both. You can't simply go to a Western society or Western medicine practitioner and they run labs and say, oh, I know exactly what's going on with you. Here, I'm going to prescribe this, and not take the time to conduct a thorough history where I'm empowering you to tell me what's going on with you. Because you're the best person to be able to explain your experience in your body, as opposed to someone external of you taking a lab, looking at statistics, sans narrative, and then adopting what they say the treatment is. That is verbatim what we're talking about when we talk about culturally appropriate narrative mapping. The fact that you can't take one without the other. You can't look at science and not look at narrative. You can't look at statistics and not look at narrative. That's exactly what we're saying. I will also say to Brother Hatim's point, the power in a diversified unity. You know, when we engage in, let's say, like stocks and bonds, just for analogy's sake, very seldom do we put all of our chips in one area on one thing. One of the more strategic approaches is to have a diversified approach, and that's going to look different for everybody depending on the time. But I think that is the beauty in what we can have as unity, because I wonder who gave us that narrative to continue to think that, oh, we're not unified, we're not this, we're not that. I don't think that that's how we were created. I think that is a tactic to separate us and to tell us that that's who we are. You all need to focus on unity because you don't have it, right? And then we adopt it and we repeat it, we reiterate it away, rather than seeing how unified we are. Because going back to epistemology, just knowing who we are and how we operate almost every day, I know for me personally, what I feel inside when I walk into an environment, when I'm walking down the street, there is never someone who engages with me or who I don't engage with first, ever. Because that's a part of how I was created, and it's also a part of how I was raised. And so I am unified with my community because naturally I'm drawn to connect and interact. And I think that only the oppressor, whatever name that they want to be called or what we choose to call them, they have said that we are pitted against one another and that we're not unified. But I would push back and say we have the ability and the strength to be diversified in our unity and know that we're all going to the same place, and that there is beauty in being able to respect and honor what other people are doing while being respectful of the plight in which we were set, like what this Tawi community is doing as opposed to what somebody else is doing, knowing that we're based in our principles, in our creation, and that just because somebody else is moving in a slightly different way doesn't mean that we're disunified.
Permission to speak?
Yeah, Bo.
Speak up.
I wanted to speak on the tribe up concept. When I think of America in its most functional era, which indeed is yet to come and is indeed right here. The thing that I see changing is that everyone in America will have the resources and the right to establish their own territories, if you will, with a certain standard of being able to be inviting to those outside of their tribe or outside of those territories. And at the same time, be able to offer a sense of a distinctive culture. I think that is the America that I look forward to, no matter whose land we're crossing. The establishment of a certain standard is what's necessary to be able to constitute a village, I'd say. And in doing so, and in that spirit, and in the spirit of my house, I wanted to share one of the sentiments that that from my house to my community is what resonates the most, and that's something that came from the Mayans, the ancient Mayans, phrase called "en la quech." In la quech, it is stating that I am the other you. To cause you harm is to cause myself harm. And the flip side of that is I am the other you. I love you like I love myself. Be able to establish that within household, within tribe, within village first will give you the vibration to never have to explain it. When people hear it, they'll get it. When it's in your practice, it becomes a trend, and that's the trend. Those are the types of trends that I think that we need to set to really change and to provoke this shift in America.
Ashe, Ubuntu.
Ashe.
Brother Shaka, that's simply Ubuntu, right? I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, but like Elder Aloma says, we need to give ourselves the opportunity to mess up, I guess, or try. But that means I am because you are, right? Isn't that from our culture?
Word, same thing.
That's what I'm looking forward to. When we can be so confident in who we are and what comes from us, like Brother Hatem, your pushback to say, hey, where did they get that from? Right? To be so confident that I'm not threatened by what you're doing. And it's cute. Like, you're so inspired by what I do that you're attempting to do it too. Like, that's beautiful. And like what Brother Shaka just said, like, it's a vibration that can't be denied. So I feel like when we're just so strong in who we are, and man, when we can just push back on other narratives that people try to feed us and just be like, no, I know who I am. I can feel who I am, not feeling like we even have to go swab our mouths to get whatever, a test to know what tribe we come from, and just know how we've been doing things all our lives, and all even before our particular lives, is a feeling like, I know who I am. Do you know who you are? Yeah. And knowing who we are, like, ourselves, within our village, within our family, is more important than us yielding to make sure that they're comfortable in who they are. I think that sometimes we are so giving and so loving and so just understanding that. What I found is that we attempt to unify to a fault. But like what Brother Shaka said, if we know who we are and we establish that within our family and our village, that's understood. And if they want to, and they wouldn't help but imitate that. They couldn't help but imitate it. And it's like he said, it's coming along in some of these cultures who they're looking like, yo, yikes, this is really what y'all are doing, because they haven't stopped to see what's going on until recently. And it'll continue to happen. And it's like, oh, it's cute that you see it now. I've known this. You're not showing me anything new, and you're also not going to force me to take a place in this currently that I don't have the energy to do so. But good job. I'm glad that you're learning it, and keep moving about our business. Like,
Shit.
Ashe. Speak, sister.
Permission to speak. This is Elder Cassandra. I would like to, thank you. I would like to explore Hatim's suggestion or Hatim's question of, are we really empowering our ancestors in a way that assists us? I think that, when I heard that question, I took it deeply, and I could see that is an equation that oftentimes we say we admire, we're bringing our ancestors in, but oftentimes it feels like it's more of an intellectual happening than a truly activity that's done from the depths of our being, considering that we are spiritual beings. And this could be perhaps a topic for another Quran, I think. So I just wanted to put that in there. Thank you.
Ashe.
Thank you.
This is Elder Alona. Elder Cassandra.
Yes, ma'am.
What would be, like you say, it could be a topic for a Quran, but what would be an example that shows that we are empowering our ancestors, as both you and Nation Builder Hatim has articulated?
I feel,
or maybe the inverse of, why do you feel that is not occurring?
I'm not saying that it is not occurring. I'm not looking at it from that perspective. I'm looking at it from the perspective that we can always expand our understanding of our ancestors, the relationship that we have with our ancestors, the power that they can truly give us. I am saying, I'm not speaking from a negative or limited situation. I'm only speaking from the fact that, do we have those kinds of conversations, and can we expand it? And I think that we can expand our understanding and look at it. To give you an example for me that happened today, and I see this as an example. For the yesterday morning, I had a dream that my mother showed up, and I'm like, this is unusual because that's not happened before. This morning, she showed up again. And so I said, okay, it's not happened. Why? Then it came to me, because my brother is hospitalized, then it came to me that I needed to pray for my brother. So it's like, if I could have taken that some way, I could have ignored that. I could have not sought the additional message that was being sent to me, or any number of things. So when I say that we probably could benefit from this, it's not from a position of lack nor limitation. It's only from a position of expansion in our awareness.
Thank you.
Ashe.
Thank you.
Ma'am, go ahead.
Oh man, it's so beautiful. And all I can do is share from my experience. And there's been so many times, there's been times, every time that I get to come to Quran and divine conversation, I often invite and bring others with me. And, how many questions about ourselves that people don't know? Like, what does the Ankh stand for? Because it's been othered. And so there's a fear or hesitation in what is yours, like where your ancestors come from. And, there's African spirituality has been othered. And it takes for you to be in the community to feel and to be open to listen, to hear. We're not, it's been called black magic. It's been, there's set a strong fear around who we are and our power, that they have made that a part of the narrative that's pushed, is why some of us don't even tap into what is so evident and so much at our fingertips and within, because it's been looked at as crazy. So Sister Cassandra, or Elder Cassandra, what you say about, your mother coming to you, I'm grateful for those moments. And those moments happen when we're more and more open to them, because this world has told us this narrative that they push, this one narrative, that there's something wrong with that, oh no, you should go get checked out. Oh no, you should be on. I can't tell you how many times. It doesn't happen often, but there's been enough people, just a few, less than a handful, who really don't understand me and how I move. And so they're able to say out their mouth, oh, something's wrong with you. You need medication. Well, I would never want to medicate my connection to my higher power and my ancestors, ever.
That's right.
And I think that is something that we can step into, like you're sharing, Elder Cassandra, from a spiritual as opposed to a cerebral understanding. Oh yeah, we love MLK and Junior, and sometimes we'll actually address him Reverend Doctor or Ancestor or whatever, but hardly ever, right? Because that's not what they call them. We kind of love Malcolm X, I think, but then we try to pit them against each other because that's what they told us to do. So be like MLK, don't be like Malcolm X, instead of just being present enough to be open to what really was going on and what they're telling us from within. I think if more people just would come and feel the energy and the vibe, like around communities such as ours, with Tawi families, that they would know, like, this is nothing to be afraid of. There's many people who are, unfortunately.
Permission, this is Elder Alana. Just to echo a little bit of what you just said, Sister Tiandra. One of the things that I'm learning just in translating, doing some of the translations of the Madhu Necher, is that a lot of the translations and things that are out here is from a Eurocentric perspective, and a lack of understanding of African people that Europeans or West Asians brought to the party when they started the translations. They do so much of our stuff that it becomes obvious that they don't understand, or they're relating to it from their cultural perspective, that they do declare stuff as magic or less than kind of thing. So just to add to that, I yield.
Which they should, Brother Hatim.
Okay.
They should. I mean, if I was in the position that they was in, and the future of my civilization was at risk, everything that I found about another group that would be a threat to me, I would do exactly what they're doing. It's magic. It's impossible. It's this. It's that. And it's supposed to be made scary to us. And I think that we need to kind of embrace. That's once again stepping back and looking at that cultural narrative map so that we can understand where we are and who we are. We don't understand the landscape. A lot of us don't understand the landscape that we're dealing with. We don't know where the valleys and the hills are. We just basically it's sort of like when Elder Tony, a couple of I think it was Raw Risings, where he would blindfold us, and we would have to feel our way around obstacle course that he would set up, and he'd be laughing while people tripping and shit. I mean, y'all know how Elder Tony do. You know what I'm saying?
That was he was doing that at the last day of the
Comedic New Year.
Of the Comedic New Year. Yes,
right.
That evening. Yes.
And that's sort of how.
Welcome to my world.
Right. Exactly.
Welcome to my world.
we got to stumble around and stuff, and like I said, we have an opportunity with the conversation that's rising to step back and look at the whole cultural map to see where we are. And then also, once again, now when we look at our cultural map, we'll have to look at other people's cultural map so that we understand where the borders are and where they lie, because everybody is playing this cultural tribal game except us. We get into the whole universal piece, and that really bothers me. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm so glad that Brother Shaka cleared up with the in the catch, as well as I am, because we are, because that starts at home first. You don't do that with strangers. That type of shit will get you killed. You know what I'm saying? That will get you killed. Or enslaved. I'm sorry, I don't mean that.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So we have to be.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to understand, and what we have an opportunity to do now, like at no other time in history, because everything is on the internet. Everything is visible. We no longer have to be groping around like we're trying to find our way out of a dark room. And we could be very clear and very intentional about some of the stuff that we're talking about. One of the things that got me on the quest with my ancestors is that, and I tell the story often, is one day I took Pisces, I take a long bath, and I had a vision, and an ancestor in the vision asked me a very simple question. The first one was, "Where's the ancestor capital of the world?" Boom, I got it wrong, and it clarified that for me. Then it said, "We're hungry." I mean, what do you mean we're hungry? Where's our monuments? Because what the monuments do, it gives the culture an opportunity and a place where they could gather and, in a sense, connect as a group. Because we could connect as individuals, because all of us have examples of miraculous moments where we got a word from an ancestor or a certain feeling. But as a group, I don't think that we have connected, and that's what those monuments did for us. And that's what it do for other groups. And so one of the challenges we might need to take is, boom, do we gonna erect a monument? Just saying, just throwing it out there. But
we need to.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Good. Brother Hudson, when I asked you to come with Baba Tony and I and Sister Layla, one of the main examples in my mind of narrative mapping, culturally appropriate narrative mapping, was who you are. If to nobody else but to me, and I've heard you refer to yourself as a shaman, or that being your goal. And immediately when I heard you say that, I'm like, that's exactly it, right? And you look up the definition of a shaman. It's a person who regarded as having access to and influence in the world of good and evil spirits. Typically, such people enter a trance state during ritual and practice divination and healing. And oftentimes that word is reserved for, I've seen Indian men, white men, and maybe some white women. And hardly ever do I connect to those individuals who have been deemed shaman, who are within those cultures. But as soon as I heard you and encountered your spirit, I'm like, oh yeah, he's definitely a shaman. It's like, to me. And it's just, it's again that Kuji Chakalia and just that narrative. And even to make it more real, right? Talking about where we are right now and what it means for us to take the stance of culturally appropriate narrative mapping. As Brother Aten said, you know, it's not about mapping about where we're going, but it's about being right here, right? And creating the map, because you can't really, if you think about it, like create a map about where you're going until the map has been created. Like you're not creating the map about where you're going. You're using the map. And so it's like, where are we going as it's like, even as we approach this school season? I heard my mother and my grandmother talk last weekend. And they're like, oh yeah, the kids are going back to school. And I'm like, who said that they're going back to school? Oh, well, the school district's open. They've already said. So we're allowing the school district to decide what our children are doing? Or are we going to be prepared and intentional and rightfully take our power in deciding what we're going to choose to do in the direction that we're going in? And I think that, if I may, I would like for us to briefly have this conversation. I don't know if it's a bigger conversation than what Divine Conversation allows for, but I think about Brother Shaka and him approaching homeschooling his son maybe last year or maybe 2 years ago, and just knowing that they surprised us, quote unquote, this past school season, and where it's had a detrimental effect and people have been upset and they don't want to repeat that experience. And so we may choose to forego our power and allow school districts and the government to decide what our children are doing. And I just want to push back on that and say, hey, can we maybe be prepared and unified and decide which direction that we want to go in prior to being told by a system what we're going to do with ourselves and our loved ones? I yield.
This is Elder Alona, just to throw out a couple of people's names. I know that Nation Builder Warrior, Roni, and Nation Builder Warrior, Sister Roni, and Nation Builder Jill, Nation Builder Devin are working on something within the Tawi village. Nation Builder Kwame are all working on something within the Tawi village to address the question, Warrior Tiandra, that you just asked. They are working on something. So you could reach out to any of them to get more information on that.
I would love to, and I'd love to be part of the conversation, because I feel as though my skill set can help support whatever direction we decide as a community.
Okay, well, those four names I know, Roni, Jill, Devin, and Kwame are definitely working towards something.
Well, I'm definitely participating.
Well, okay.
However, my attendance to meetings is deficient because I already have meetings on the night that they meet. However, Jill tends to give a highly informative summary of what goes on. So Jill, Roni, or Devin would be the most informative individuals to get details from.
Beautiful. It's funny because it's something that Brother Hatem and I had spoke about before, about starting something with like Brother Kwame and those of us that have a certain content area expertise, and really, really, really being intentional about how we teach our young people about their systems. So it makes you wonder, like, how much are we connected to our ancestors? And rather than looking at COVID as something that's happened to us, maybe it's something that we is an answer to the prayers that we pray, in a way.
Permission to speak. This is why I call it the Marcus Garvey. I don't want to call it disease, but I call it the return of Marcus Garvey, because he said he was coming with hundreds of millions of Africans behind him.
Come.
You understand what I'm saying? So I look at it as, because it's not happening to us. Like you said, it's a possibility that it's happening for us, because for the first time in history, the whole world is standing still. And things are being exposed that we as a group need to really be looking at and taking advantage of, because we this is a time for us to rest as well as to plan for the next 25 years, because we don't know when something like this is going to happen again, and a lot of us is just letting this time just slip through our fingers. You know what I'm saying? You at home, you might have to go to work, you might not have to go to work. A lot of stuff has frozen up, and you're not writing. You might not be writing. You might not be recording. You might not be putting down, because part of the piece for me and us dealing with our ancestors is our ancestors communicate with us. Are we logging it down? Are we pulling it out? Are we asking the questions to solve some of the major issues that we have in our personal lives and as a group? I really don't believe that we are truly pulling on the power of our ancestors. I think we intellectually believe in it, but when it comes to actuality, I don't, I'm just saying, that's just me. And maybe and better yet, let me say I'm speaking for me. You know what I'm saying? I understand it intellectually. I'm trying to get to a point where it's beyond real. But I know I ain't alone in that. So I stop.
Permission to speak. Brother Hatim, that's what I was trying to say earlier. You're right on point, and you're saying that that's where you are. And when I said we're not on the same page, until we all get kind of on the same page and have the same thoughts, can we move forward? Because this whole issue of dealing with ancestors and all of that, it's like somebody said, people see it as something scary. It's the unknown to them, even within my family. And I've shared my history of my aunties who practiced voodoo and how that affected me. But I understand the spirit of the ancestors because I interact with them and they interact with me. And I have people in my family who say that's weird and they're scary. Even my mother was afraid of it, and she was the one that put the fear in me even about that whole issue. But coming forward, I had to learn how to accept that was part of me. But that's what I was talking about. And when I think it was Elder Cassandra talked about, understanding ancestors, I do think that that's a very important aspect of where we are right now. Because think about this whole movement. I kind of think it's the ancestors that made that happen. Who would have thought that shooting that one brother would have brought the whole world? I ain't talking about just the state, the whole freaking world, over killing a black man. So it may be the opening of the door and I'm getting, my ancestors are just breaking out over me right now, that they are the ones that did that. Something that particular incident, if you think about it, how did that happen? It had to be something deeper than what we.
The last words on the brother's mouth, he was calling to his most intimate ancestor.
He called out for his mother.
Ashe.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
he called
thing that. Yeah, and the thing that you said, Brother Hatim, was we need to do something, and I totally agree with you. I don't know what to do, but I think we need to take an opportunity to do something at this point in time and not just let it go by. But I don't know what that is. So it needs a collective thought, and that's going to be hard, but it's got to happen.
The beautiful thing is that we don't have to know what to do. We just need to continue to be open to our ancestors to direct us. They know.
That's
That,
right.
like
That's
you
right.
said,
I say.
Alona, this was their plan all along. You think that they're
Right.
not organized? And
Teach,
like
sister, teach.
we just celebrated, ancestor John Lewis is a part of it.
That's
You
right.
don't think that we ain't taken care of? I'm just, and you know what's so beautiful about what's going on right now, and I don't know if any of you will be able to relate, but I see a lot of posture changing. And I am one who understands that our physical vessel and being is solely a manifestation of our spirit and our energy and our mind. And I see a lot of those within my family, in my community and tribe and village, standing up a little taller and stronger and being more equipped and quick in slimming down. I don't understand why I'm losing weight. I need to put weight back on. Do you need to put weight back on because cerebrally you feel as though, oh, I don't look like I normally look? Or do you think that there's maybe a slight chance that you're being prepared for something and something is coming?
That's right.
And I hear about us preparing for 25 years from now, but I also know just 25 days from now that we can be in a position to really move in our power and to really continue to be open to and call upon. And more so, it's like, you know what? I believe our ancestors, yes, we can very intentionally call on them right now. But I think that if we simply were open, right? If more of us were just simply open, they have enough within them to make it happen. We're just open.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that.
Cultural mapping.
Ashe.
Ashe.
What this reminds me of is how sometimes in Christianity they say almost the same thing that's being said right now. You're gonna wait on somebody else or the spirit or something else to do it. The ancestors, it's not their job to do that, to do the work. The ancestors, their place or their role is to assist us or to prepare us.
That's right.
See, for us to do it. But if we're going to have a conversation about, well, if the ancestors doing it, well, no, the ancestors are helpless without us actually doing the work.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Baba Dear, perhaps you could elaborate on the oneness of us and the ancestors.
I'm sorry, on oneness of what?
The oneness of us and the ancestors. I am because we are. That we.
That's right. That's
Well,
right.
Yes, that, and then you also have me, we. I mean, there's a lot of sayings, but I'm not sure that we're clear on how to activate that.
Right.
I mean, we're talking. It's some of the things that I'm hearing. We keep talking about the ancestors and going way back when you don't have to. Malcolm, he talked about what we're talking about right now. In terms of unity, what we're supposed to do is leave those differences at the door, and then talk about and discuss the things that we have mutually in common. But we're still looking at the differences and trying to find unity in that.
That's powerful. Yes, sir.
Permission to speak. Permission to speak.
Here you go.
Sir.
I'm gonna say. All right. So now, because the issue is not necessarily. Well, first off, the ancestors are in. They're part of the life cycle. They're part of us. They are, in a sense, they are us. We got their DNA. We pass that down. They secured the space and time for us, but we got to stop dealing with them, I believe, as like ghosts. Because in the West Asian tradition, they're like a ghost. They are they are still participating members within our family line. And we have to understand that.
That's right.
This is why Elder Tony always leaves a seat open when we are doing per ankh. This is why when you go to some family celebrations, they have a seat open and an extra plate. We need to go on and start actualizing these practices, because these beings are here and they help us. You know what I'm saying? We just have to be open to it, like Sister Tiandra said, and start doing and start working and start building. And it was something else he said. I'm gonna say this. One of the reasons I started Daily Toast is because I noticed a lot of people start going to the big ancestors rather than dealing with the big mamas. You know what I'm saying? Because the piece is that we are jumping over those individuals that we directly come from to go and, in a sense, worship other people. Malcolm got his own family. But Geneva Brown, I come from Geneva Brown. You understand what I'm saying? And that is what empowers me and keeps me moving. And she has a plate at my table. You understand what I'm saying? So now, when it comes to doing work, I might not know what I need to do, but I know how to throw my whole self in there and be like, yo, y'all got me. They got me.
I know that's right.
You know what I'm saying? And I now that piece I have seen, I still get nervous. Because right now, I'm in the process of, they got me. Like, for example, with this show, I'm moving. In the midst of me moving, I got to stop and do the show. So I left my computer here. I'm like, boom, I leave the house. It's open, no curtains up. My computer and shit here. I'm like, damn, this shit gonna be gone by the time I get back in the morning.
Ain't nobody gonna mess with it.
Exactly. I got in the house, it was here. I turn it on.
That's right.
It's time for the show. I call in, and I'm listening to Michi X, and y'all hear it. Y'all like, who that cussing? And I'm like, well, what's going on? My whole computer, the whole layout changed for my computer because Microsoft made an update. And I'm like, ancestors got me. You know what I'm saying? And I mentioned my concern. And Sister Tiandra said, she gave me encouraging words. She said, if anybody can solve it, you can solve it. Now we're streaming because, believe it or not, I could not hear anything on this computer that was playing. I would not have been able to stream, but I was able to get to the bottom of it and solve it. I'd be like, boom, yo, shit, I'm Geneva's grandson. I'm Cleveland's grandson. I'm Miles Brown's great-great-grandson. I'm connected to something bigger than me and not using it as a reason not to be active. And I wasn't going to wait for them to solve the problem. I'm waiting for them to give me inspiration to solve the problem myself.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
So when we talk about our connection, when we talk about the ancestors, we need, because the West Asians, they did a good job of instilling this whole fear of that, even though they practice it. You know what I'm saying? We got to start doing it, and not only, and I want to mention this too, far as us as a collective family, we have been doing the Daily Toast we on year 4. We're moving into year 5 real soon here. Year 4, every day, except for like today. And I count this as on when we streaming per ankh and when we streaming daily the divine conversations. I don't necessarily do the toast, but in a sense, this is the toast. But we have been lifting up our ancestors, and everybody on this call got somebody on that list. And if you don't, hopefully you will. Because every day we call on them and we talk about some of the issues that's going on with us. So in many ways, we are taking actions. It's just a matter of deciding on what you want to do and what you could contribute to what we're doing and in the direction that we're going. And I think we'll be straight, but Elder Phyllis, I didn't know your family. I didn't know it was some voodoo up in there. I didn't know that. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I'm done.
It's all right. You're all right.
Okay, Bo.
No, I mean, well, permission to speak. So, on the ancestral piece, when Hatim first started the morning toast. You know, it was my habit to be up at like anywhere between 2:30 to 3:30 in the morning, communing with the ancestors. And then Hatim used to come on at some time about 5-ish. And, you know, and then I get on there with him and commune with, you know, other ancestors. But going back to communing with my personal ancestors, the ones whose genes I carry, the ones who flood me with ideas as I call on their names and listen for what they have to tell me. You know, I wish everybody could have these kinds of experiences. All I can say is that I've cultivated mine.
I know that's right, brother.
And because of that cultivation, I'm yielding harvest.
I hear you.
And let me just say, I would pray that for the rest of our family, so that when we come together, they might wish it was only Marcus Garvey with millions of Africans behind him.
Right.
I say.
Because as Mama Alone often reminds me, she says that if you think my generation was bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. I yield.
I say.
Oh, and I got one more thing. Because Elder Darrell Green said, leave the differences at the door. And I think a lot of times, sometimes we have to really evaluate what we believe in, or what we think we know, and be honest. Because if it's not producing fruit, it need to be casted into the fire. Because we got a lot of people in our community that hang on to beliefs that are not producing. One of the things I tell people on a daily toast, the daily toasters, the ones that tune in, I say, if you are getting no benefits from what we're doing, stop. See, and I don't think, you know what I'm saying, because I see plenty of people with belief systems that are producing nothing. And when we run into people like that, you know, for me, I stopped trying to convert people when I hit 32. You know what I'm saying? I'm no longer in the conversion business. I'm into working with those who understand and who is willing to move forward, because I can't nation build with a bunch of new people with beliefs that don't benefit us. I'm at a point, you know what I'm saying? And many of us, a lot of people on this call right now, you're at a point where you need to be around other people like you. You know, because I know some of the friends that you hang on to. I mean, that's you. But a lot of us, we have to really evaluate our surroundings, who we surround ourselves with, especially at this phase, because we need to be establishing institutions that will outlive us. And you can't form an institution with, how can
starting all over again.
Not only starting all over again, not just starting all over, but you can't form an institution with people who don't, in a sense, that don't believe that is worthy.
Right.
With people that's scared.
People who aren't invested.
Yeah.
Right.
People who don't have skin in the game.
Yeah, right.
I hear you, brother. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm done.
That's right.
This is Elder Alona. What you just said, Brother Hatim, takes a certain maturity to be able to do what you're articulating. It is a challenge to do what you are articulating. That's all I need to say. I have examples, but that's all I need to say. It takes a level of maturity to get to the point of that. But I think all of us that are here um, in our circle right now have a solid belief that we're building something that will live beyond, that'll live beyond us. And it's to grow our group, to grow our circle, is what we're trying to do. And it is a challenge. But we're up to it. We're up to it. It is 1:27. Warrior Tiandra, Nation Builder Hatim, and Elder Kwame. Not Kwame. Elder Tony. Do you guys have anything that you want to close with our divine conversation? For us to go out and think about? And
permission to speak?
Yeah, Bo. Go ahead.
Isn't this a beautiful thing? Because I've been dealing with telling the story of Sankofa the egg, the third generation, and doing it from the perspective of the ancestors of drum and dance and song here in Columbus, Ohio. I got this story and I'm telling it, and I get on the phone here after I, try with somewhere else, and y'all talking all about it. So I'm saying, like, yeah, okay. So this idea wasn't mine to begin with; it was the ancestors' idea. And then for Sister Phyllis and others to open up, we're way down the road. What can I say? But anyway, so like I said, I used to talk about the forest and how from a distance you look at the forest and it see it one, but when you go inside the forest, you see the different trees and all that stuff. And somebody on the phone, I forget who it was talking about the human body. When you look at the human body and you just look at the one, but when you really go inside and look at it, and not even and you haven't even gone to the mind, you're just going to the physical stuff, it's made up of a whole bunch of different things. So all of that differences does come up to the one. And we have to understand that we control the narrative by modulating that to the way we tell the story. Our Kuji Chuggalia is alive and well. But what does it look like to you? And how do you embrace it and bring it forward as an ancestor? I yield.
I hear you, Brother Tony. I hear you. I share.
If we don't have any,
I guess
go ahead.
I'll speak in gratitude. Thank you. Just in gratitude that this is exactly it. And just to speak to Brother Hatim's last point and what Baba Tony just shared is that, like I said before, our unity looks a lot different. We are all beautifully curated individuals that were made to be part of the whole. And we have our understanding, we have our experiences, we have our journeys, just as we were intended to. And that does not mean that to come together, we have to lose a sense of self or identity. What it means is, as I spoke to before, that we can be so grateful for who we are that we're able to show gratitude, celebrate, honor, respect, love, protect, and provide for who we are as a collective as well, knowing that doing one is not taking away from the other. And so what Brother Hatim shared about, a lot of us getting to a place where it's just nice to come together with your tribe, with your village, and knowing that different ones of us are at different stages, and that it's not I don't think that we're doing it to take away from who each one of us is and what we can bring to the table. And I think sometimes that is what I see. In order for us to be unified, that we have to strip away parts of our identity. And I think that on the contrary, that is parts of our identity that make the whole even stronger and more elaborate and more intricate, in that when we know self, we can come together and celebrate the collective. And that's what I feel, that's what I hear, that's what I'm grateful for and excited about.
Permission to speak.
Yay, Bo.
You both.
You know, what Tiandra just spoke of, I can't help but to be reminded of Elder Alona, Elder Mary out of Detroit, Sister Lisa, and I are in a Meta-Nature study group. I can't see the Meta-Nature, but I tend to be a quote unquote master grammarian. Elders Alona and Elder Mary, they see very well, maybe I shouldn't say very well, but they see it. They have very different perspectives on how they approach it. But that's all taken into account. And then Lisa, she brings to quote Lisa, she'll say, well, you know, I'm a kind of literal kind of person, and, you know, I have to take things for what they are right here on the page. And we laugh in one sense and we say, Lisa, our people spoke in metaphors. So you'll lose yourself if you want to take things literally and just as they are. However, because we may have to explain things like that, Lisa's perspective adds to the whole of how we interpret something. So coming from each of our strengths, lack of understanding, lack of what we can see, when we bring it all together and combine our strengths, that's when the best interpretation comes out of what we're translating.
Ashe. That's the picture. That's it. Yeah. Permission to speak.
Yay, Bo.
In the beginning, the reason why we couldn't hear the African drums is because we didn't understand. But at the same time, we did understand because we were hearing them. The drums, from the African perspective, each drum has its own voice and its own pattern. By itself, that pattern doesn't mean anything. Or to the group, it doesn't mean anything. But when you put the several patterns together, notice I said several patterns together, they speak as one voice. And each time the lead drummer or whoever, they always start with the idea. What is the idea? What is that? Like Elder Darrell would say, what is we here? What is the occasion? What is the occasion? And that idea then we speak it. The drums then speak it. And each of the drums, once they know what that occasion is, then each drum knows its responsibility. And it speaks to that occasion from its perspective. And when we hear it as one. And also the song comes into play. And once we hear it as one, then we begin to move. And when we say move, that we use the other language today, dance, but it's really the movement. It's the beautiful thing is that we may even hear it different, but we move as one when we do the movement. That's right. I say. And it takes more than one pattern, more than one understanding, like Brother Kwame just said, of what the occasion is to actually make it become visualized. Yeah. Because remember, we're in the thing of time and space. So I'll leave that alone.
Mama Phyllis, are you there?
Yeah, Bo.
Would you
Still here?
close us out?
Okay. Let us center ourselves. Inhale all the good that we've taken in. Dispel all the stuff that we don't need to carry with us. Today was a wonderful discussion. I'm very excited about being open and able to talk about my ancestral spirits and not be judged because of it. Let us continue to meet, gather, learn, and move forward. Ashe.
Ashe. Thank you.
Ashe.
Hotel family.
Hotel.
Yeah.
Mama Phyllis.
Yeah, Bo.
Yeah, that's what that 8 thing is about in the park.
The 8th?
Yeah.
Okay. It's about,
remember,
say that again.
I had it down. Remember you as calling the names and that whole thing, and talking about them and all of that. That's what that's about. I just didn't express it the way it was done today.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. And Brother Daryl.
Did you get
Huh?
Did you get to talk to Reba yet?
No, but I did talk to Elder Kelsey, and he's going to have her call me.
So you didn't get the correct spelling of her name?
Like I said, she's calling now. I'll call you back.
Hey.
Brother Hatem, are you still there?
Yep, I'm trying to fix my system. I can't
go nowhere.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask if at some point what would be a good time for Elder Phyllis and I or any of us to call just to get how we should put on the flyer, how to connect people for the different days of next week.
I think for next week, all right, but yeah, just call me.
I'll give you a call. What would be a good time? Phyllis can call you.
Whenever, because I think I got next week off, so I'm gonna have to because I'm still moving and stuff. But we're gonna use Google Meet, so I have a link. To get down for people so they can do it. But only the people that needs to really be presenting need to call on that. Everybody else can catch it on G&J Media .live.
Okay, so for the public, you want us to tell the public to call G&J Media .live?
No, we want them to go to it. They don't call it.
I'm sorry, to go to G&J Media
Right.
.live.
That's where everything is going to be. I don't believe this thing did this to me. I am so hurt.
So you'll be available to talk to Reba though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just.
So hopefully, I'll give her your information.
Right.
She knows what she needs. Okay. So we're squared.
Okay, and then for the movie, you want them to do G&J Media .live as well?
Let me think about the movie because I still got another week for that because the issue is the movie it's on YouTube, but if I stream it, we're going to have some issues.
I have it on a DVD as well.
I know. However we stream it is going to be an issue around because that's somebody else's property. So I have to figure out, because I was thinking about doing a private, streaming it in a private room, or something. I'm still thinking about that. I need a couple more days, and I just need to get finished moving so I could go and get set up and see how we're gonna do that. But we're gonna be able to do it, because I think I might be able to do a private room, or maybe because Tyree has a Facebook page, right?
Yes.
Do they have a private group page?
I've never set up a group page. I can if you want me to.
Set up a private group page that people that want to participate with that movie can see, and then, like I said, if you make me an administrator on that, I will be able to stream directly into that private group. And if they can't do it on there, on G&J Media, there is a private group that I could give everybody a link to get to so that they can see it. But I don't want to stream that everywhere because that'll be problematic. I'll be thrown off.
Okay. Well, I will call you on setting up the group page, because I noticed today when I went to my Facebook page, you were streaming because Elder Margarita had streamed it on ASCAT study group page, and since I'm a member, it shows up on my page.
Right. Elder Margarita is learning how to do it now, so she gets out there and she's sharing. Shouts out to Elder Margarita. I know she out there right now. Matter of fact, she had a few comments. Matter of fact, let me check the comments before we get off so we can send shots out to the family out there that's listening. Where we at? Where are the comments? I got them on here. Hold on. Let's see. Okay, we got Elder Isatu. She said, "True word." This was a while ago. First let's go up to Sister Margarita. Of course, say Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. She said, "Permiso to speak." True word. That's from Sister Isatu. Mama Margarita again. She said, "Ashe, Ashe, Ashe." Asante, Sana brother. That was at about 12:55. So I don't know who was speaking then. We got Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Now, this brings up another point, because a lot of people like the speaking piece. One of the things that I'm going to do to make sure that the speakers can see the comments is that when we talk, we're going to, like, for example, when we have events where we only are going to have one or two or three people speak, I have a link that I could get to them where they will be able to get on, they will be able to be on the screen, and they will be able to see people comments. And if they choose to respond, they can respond. So that's the link I'm going to share with those people that's going to be speaking. But everybody else will be able to get on G&J. We'll talk about that. I don't want to hold everybody up. But hold on.
I will call you so I can understand what we need to do, because I would like to be able to see or to help with letting the speakers know, because sometimes the speakers are speaking, but they're not really reading comments like they should. But if somebody else is reading the comments, you can say, well, you got this, or you see what I'm saying?
Right. I'll make sure, like I said, we'll decide who will be on that side of the wall. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. And I'll send a link to you, and you can get a link to who you need to give it to. But just know that is for majorly the speakers and those that's going to be assisting with making sure that the information is getting out. But everybody else will be able to be at gnjmedia.live. Almost done. Elder Margarita says, "Cultural Ms. Cultural Map, Kuji Chagalia." That's Sister Margarita. Elder Asitu, great conversation today. Once again, Elder Margarita saying Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. And Sister Asitu said, "Ashe, have a blessed day." And that's all the comments so far. If there's any other comments, family, you have an opportunity to post them up right now. I will try to make sure we get to all of them. And as we get better, eventually everybody that's on whatever we are using will be able to have access to the comments and be able to respond to you in a timely fashion. But that's it for me.
Sounds good. Ashe. I'm out.
Me too. Peace.
Peace, fam.
Peace.
Discovery. Look inside and tell me what you see. Discovery. Look outside and tell me what you see.
What's up, y'all? Stop the violence in the name of the scene. This brother come get some reality. Black pharmacy, stop. Cause you can't one another. We the go rock. And on the other hand, you got to put your hand. Come on, your brothers, you give your own man. Yes, you take your reins free. I got a question. What's up with the real man died for? We need to stop the violence for the need to support. And respect one another cause it's God's right. Cause in another day, they make it What if you don't find it, say you tripping, and you ain't tripping, and you don't the wrong start, then act like you know, and give
The African Heritage Diet consists of 6 lessons. Lessons where we reach back to our African heritage to find culturally appropriate health and wellness practices that help us to move forward as a people that are whole in mind, body, and spirit. Lesson 1 is herbs and spices. Lesson 2 are greens. Greens is the widest part in the base of the African Heritage Diet food pyramid. So many greens should be consumed. And as you move up the pyramid, those are the things that you consume in proportionate amounts. Whole grains, lesson 3. Beans and rice,
Phyllis.
lesson 4. Tubers and mashes, lesson 5. Lesson 6,
Ella Phyllis.
fruits, vegetables, and a healthy lifestyle.
Oh, gosh.
Elder Tony, what's up? Elder Tony. Sister Tiandra, you still here? Okay.
and women, but the most important goddesses were black. Not just for the African now, in the civilization of the Greek. The Greek was so profoundly affected by the Africans that the goddess of chastity was a black woman, Artemis. The goddess of wisdom was a black woman, Minerva. The goddess of beauty was a black woman, Diana. And many of their great mythological figures which were critical to the vision of history, the history of the Greeks in the Odyssey. The woman who draws, who has the power to draw Odysseus and all his crew into her, is Circe, who is represented as a black woman with African features on the Greek vases. The woman who helps Jason win the golden fleece is a black woman, Medea. The woman who marries Perseus, the Greek hero.
I am a genius. My ancestors were geniuses. My ancestors have made me a genius in all that I think, say, and do. I must declare myself a genius. I am a genius. Whenever I am myself, I practice my geniusness and do great things. All my thoughts, choices, and deeds must express my geniusness.
I am a genius. My decisions must always be in the best interest of myself, my family, my people, and my God. Only then will I and everyone I know that I am a genius.
I am a genius. At all times, my geniusness must reflect my culture. My geniusness must serve my God. My geniusness must make me be one in love and harmony with my family. My geniusness must protect my people. Yes, at all times I must demonstrate excellence because I am a
What is a lion? What is a whale without his pod? What is a monkey without his troop? What is a wolf without his pack? The answer is very simple. They are the same thing that a human being is without a tribe. Pray.